I'm Miss Geringer.
And I'm Dr. Torres.
Welcome to
Braggin' Braggin'.
Woo!
Alright, welcome to Braggin' and Braggin'. I am Dr. Torres.
I'm Victoria Hoffman.
I'm Marty Geringer.
Cole Boers.
I'm Cameron Brana.
And this episode we are focusing on the stories of our production team. In our last episode, you guys remember, we talked about kind of how things started, where we were coming from, and so I thought that we would do a little mini series on kind of you guys' stories, as much as you're comfortable talking about, just so that our listeners and our viewers understand the culture of what we've got going around. Yeah. All right, so I am the founder of Pragmatic Studies as a major here at the university. And G?
I am a full-time visiting professor. I'm going on my third year.
Yeah, so G, you're going to speak up.
Oh, sorry. Third year.
Perfect. And then Guillermo, you are the head writer for the production team.
I am, yes.
And Colton, you are one of our videographers.
Yes.
Yep, one of our producers. And then Vic.
I'm the social media manager.
Yes, you are. You're also co-hosting with Guillermo. So this is probably a little different because the last time you two were hosting.
Yes, we were.
So now you're on the other side of the coin, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we can talk about kind of what you guys' experiences are. So as it stands right now, we'll kind of start current and we'll go backward. As it stands now, you guys have graduated and completed the Associates of Applied Science and Pragmatic Studies.
Yes.
So degree number 1 is under your belts.
Yes.
Yes. And you guys have decided to continue on with your higher education, and you're going to be doing a bachelor's of Applied Arts and Sciences in Social Innovation and Human Service.
Yes.
And you start in August.
Yep.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's great. And so as part of that degree, part of that major, you had to pick a minor. And you had to pick a minor outside of anything related to pragmatic studies, but anything at the university you could have chosen, right?
Yes.
So, what would you pick?
I chose my minor in creative writing.
And what made you pick that?
Well, I mean, I always loved writing essays, little stories, and I like also reading a lot of articles, newspapers, and I wanted to sort of major in journalism, but when they didn't have any minors like that, I sort of just chose creative writing because, I feel like those classes will teach me how to be a better writer.
Yeah, and all of my experience with you has been that journalism is really, really your forte.
Yeah.
You're very good at it.
I have to brag on you. Your vision board for creative writing is incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, so they did a vision board?
I did the vision board, and they were kind of looking at their goals going forward in their bachelor's program.
Oh, perfect.
It's very cool.
Perfect. And so, Colton, what are you minoring in?
Studio art.
Studio art. And what is it that you want to do with that, or what drove you there? Were you originally interested in esports or no?
I'm really not like a video game
You're not? Okay.
person
Okay,
anymore,
well,
but
yes. So what was it about studio arts that made you pick that?
I just narrow it down. It's just like narrow it down and hope for the best. Because art, because when COVID hit, I all started drawing stuff like randomly and just keep me busy, and because I like to draw some Monster Gym logo stuffs, and then
Gotcha.
a little bit of creative stuffs to keep me busy, and that's why I just narrowed down and hope for the best, and hopefully I draw something very creative in the class, and yeah.
Yeah, and you are pretty creative because I know we all know that you're super interested in monster trucks and monster jam stuff, and
Yes.
so that certainly takes a creative brain to understand those kinds of things,
Oh, yeah.
for sure. And then Vic, what's your minor?
I am minoring in communications because I've always been fascinated. Like when I was younger, I watched a lot of YouTube, and now there's like people on YouTube are going on to the hosting games,
Yeah,
hosting stuff,
yeah,
live
yeah.
production stuff, and I've always like been fascinated on how the YouTubers make their videos, and now that there's like I'm seeing a lot of this live production stuff happening, like game shows and stuff. I'm fascinated by that too.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm excited about this podcast, because it's kind of what we're doing here.
Yeah, for sure,
We're setting into messing with equipment and
Yep, and you're on the production
learning
team for
how
that,
things
yeah.
work, and
Yeah,
it's like I'm doing it myself now. And
Yeah, and for all of you guys, you'll take a class in the bachelor's called documentary filmmaking.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
Yes,
Y'all
and so,
gonna be professionals at it.
yeah, that'll be in your second year, and so you guys have some really good ideas, I know, about that class and those kinds of things. So yeah, I'm super glad that we got this podcast going. So let's talk about then, we can go backward a little bit. What's your story? What is it that puts you in a position to call yourself somebody that does life differently? I'll give you an example. So, I have ADHD, and when I was growing up, I've always felt misunderstood. And one of the characteristics of ADHD is that the dysregulation in emotions, like struggling to be able to manage that because of the impulsivity and my brain going faster than my mouth, and my mouth going faster than anyone else. Anyone else is thinking and having 850 things going on at once. So I was always kind of a quirky kid, didn't really fit in, and always kind of felt like a weirdo. It worked for me. I figured out how to manage it and how to make it work for me. And now I don't know how anyone exists without ADHD. But I've always had that motor going 90 miles an hour all the time. And I get very frustrated with people because people go as fast as I do with things. So anyway, as much as you're comfortable, what is your experience going back? Yeah.
Well, I was diagnosed from a young age with ADD, Asperger's syndrome, and
Okay.
so one of those things are just similar, like antisocial things,
Okay.
For me, like, I was just always very quiet, I really never, like, interacted with any groups of people. I was mostly by myself, like, most of the time, and I did have friends, but I just was a very, like, quiet, internal person,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
And during that time, like, my parents, they never sent me to like any like special schools. They sent me to like private schools. Like I spent my first 6 years at St. Elizabeth and Seton Catholic School, which is again, it's a private school. And I took regular classes with regular kids,
Mhm. Mhm.
But during that time, my parents decided to take me to speech therapy, so I went to Texas Children's Occupational Therapy
Okay.
for about 4 years there, just to learn just speech, language, things like that, And
Was it articulation, or was it understanding language that was coming in? Was it expressing what you wanted to say? What parts of the speech and language were you struggling with?
more like expressing what I wanted to say,
Okay.
and like those classes, they really were helpful, they really were. They
Okay.
helped me a lot, but then like after my 6th year at St. Elizabeth, my parents decided to take me and my brother out, so we went to another middle school, Epiphany Lutheran, which was a very smaller high school. Like they would only have like 10 students in the classes,
Okay.
And after I completed that, I went to high school, Memorial Private High School, which again, like Epiphany, was very small. Like when I started out, there were about 47 kids total.
Oh, okay. That's pretty
Yeah.
tiny.
And whenever I graduated, I think there were 54 kids there.
Oh, okay. So still pretty small.
Do you think it was helpful to have smaller class sizes?
Yeah, especially because like that high school, like especially like they had actually a specific group of students who were on the spectrum, who had difficulty learning, and so like it kind of helped the professors focus on them, than having like 20, 30 kids in a classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From a teacher standpoint, I always like smaller class sizes.
Yeah.
When I was teaching. I
Yeah.
like I could get to know people on a personal level and just more beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. And to that point, from a teacher's perspective, at least in my experience, it was so much easier to know who I was teaching and to pay attention to the who instead of the what. Because we've talked about that in other situations, right? That who we're teaching matters so much more than what we're teaching, because we can learn anything, right? There's no problem with learning. We can learn anything, but we learn as people, as social beings, especially for those of us that do things a little differently. We learn better through relationships, for sure. Yeah. So I'm with you, G.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vic. What about you? What's your experience?
So I was adopted from Russia and brought here. And I've always, every school that I went to, I was running out of the classroom.
Okay.
I was, too much energy.
Like me.
Yeah. And I went to a school called Monarch because I had a friend, which someone who was nice to me, but I wasn't really friends with up until middle school.
Okay.
I only had one friend for a long time, and when I went to Monarch, they taught me all that energy was because I would feel nervous or scared because I wasn't understanding what the teacher was saying, and instead of being able to use coping skills to stay in the classroom and ask, communicate my need,
Right.
I would just run out of the classroom.
Right.
And I didn't know that's why I was always running out of classrooms my whole life.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's why I had to have someone follow me around
Yeah.
in school. But that was my entire life I struggled in the classroom setting.
And did
because of that.
you feel like you didn't fit in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, I had that same
I mean,
experience.
if I didn't even know why I was doing it, why are all the other kids gonna know? And
Yeah.
so they just thought I was weird.
Truth. And that's hard, I think, at least for me in my experience, it's hard to feel like the weirdo, for sure.
You and I have something in common. I have to give Sasha Garinger a shout out because he was adopted to Moscow. And without him, everything I've done up until this point is to understand him having dyslexia and how to help him. And give all of him my credit because everything I've done up until now is to help him and understand all the things that he's gone through.
Yeah, I think probably, I'm sure you could do this. You could go back throughout your career and look at, probably can name several people, including Sash, but that put you on the journey you're on now.
For sure.
Do you know what I mean? With those life experiences. When I was in graduate school doing my doctorate, we did an activity and an experiential learning research class. It was called a life story experience assignment, and you had to write 5 sentences, just a sentence about 5 things that were on your life story, things that impacted you. Then you had to take those 5 sentences and pick 3 of them, and I think it was something like turn those 3 into a paragraph. Then from those 3, you had to take 1 and turn it into a 1 to 2 page paper. And so we were really looking at whose life story are we a part of and who's part of our life story in that same thing. What about your experience?
I was actually born, once I was first born, my mom, my dad did not even know that I was not even diagnosed with autism yet.
Okay.
So they think I was like a normal kid, just like.
Oh, you are a normal kid.
Just like anywhere, just like anybody. So, but so I'm like similar to Victoria. Like because back when I was in the elementary, I was like a spoiled kid. I was like a mean kid or whatever, and
I can't see that.
I can't see that either.
So yeah, like I do, because most of the time, like I usually just like run out of the classrooms like for no reason, and like for fire drills, like because usually like I should do like single file lines or whatever, and but then I usually just like hide like under the tables for no reason.
Or there was a reason. So was your reason that the noise, was it a sensory thing, that the noise from the fire alarm?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I think, but
Okay.
but like when I was probably like 4 or 5 years old, I went to like the doctor because my mom and dad don't know what's happening to me or whatever, and then the doctor told us that I was diagnosed with autism, but I don't know what full information of that, because my mom knows full information
Sure,
about me
sure.
or whatever. So I only know is like I'm just autism and all this stuff. So, but if you actually ask my mom, she'll give you full information of that.
So what kinds of things then, in that vein, when you were in school before coming to college,
Yeah.
when you were in school, what kinds of things did you struggle with?
Um,
Like Guillermo said, you struggled sometimes with social stuff because he liked to be alone. I felt like a weirdo. Vic felt like a weirdo.
I was, think I was struggle with like reading some,
Okay.
and some listening, because I used to be in bigger classes, and then I lost so much like focusing, and I guess you kind of like smaller classes, because you get
Okay, yeah.
because you get like more like information, and you
Mhm.
listen more, and because I was like in bigger classes until freshman year of high school, and they had to pull me out, transfer me to special ed for the end of my 3 years of high school. So
Yeah, so the interesting thing to me is the common thread, which we've heard from lots of students. The common thread with students who say the smaller classes worked, and I don't, at least in my experience, G, you can tell me, from an instructional perspective, I don't feel like a smaller class is a bad thing for anybody. I think any of us learns better with smaller classes, but again, I think from an instructional perspective, it's because, we're able to facilitate a relationship with people. And so, one of the things that we do here at the university in the pragmatic studies major is we look at the classroom as a room of facilitation where all of us are learning from each other. So it's not a professor doing all the teaching and the kids doing all the listening and executing assignments. It's really a back and forth. Let me learn about you and you learn about me, and we'll come together and figure out the content of the course.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what's made things rich. And that's one of the things that we're able to do with the smaller class.
I remember whenever I was going to college, I was looking at, like UT and TCU, and that's one thing I loved about TCU was the size of the classes.
Yeah.
You didn't sit in an auditorium with 3,000 kids.
Right.
It was like, oh, I actually know who my professor is.
Right, and when I started at a huge state school, and then I transferred to another state, but at the state school I was in a biology class of 300 and something, and attendance mattered, and so the way the professor would do it, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but the way the professor would do it, and this was a while ago, was he would look in the auditorium and you were assigned a seat. And so when he looked up and there's nobody sitting in row L, seat 27, that person got an attendance doc. So what we would do is just pay people to go to class for us, because the professor didn't know who you were. So back then you pay somebody $10, they go sit in class for you. And so we did that all the time and didn't learn a thing. Didn't learn a thing.
But I think the cool thing about Prague is I know every one of y'all. I feel like
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm your professor, but y'all are also my people and my friends, and
Yeah.
it's just like we're a family.
For sure, for sure. But again, that speaks to the relationship.
Yeah. And
Which-
just having the opportunity to, go to lunch or,
Yeah.
ask how your day was. It's special.
Sure, for sure. So then let's talk about how you guys got to the position where you wanted to go to college here. Was college always something that was in your trajectory, or did you not know that college was an option, et cetera? Go ahead, whoever wants to talk.
Well, so actually, once I graduated from my high school in 2017, instead of just going to like a regular campus, I just went to community college.
Okay.
I went to Lone Star Community College Side Fair for about 3 years, and I mean, it was okay, but because I was young and kind of immature, I mean, I really thought that, college work was the same as high school work, but it really wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
It took a lot more time, working and everything, and it didn't help that I had to repeat one of my courses. It was algebra.
Oh my gosh, I took algebra 3 times.
Yeah, I took it about 3 times too, and it's nothing sometimes, it was the work, sometimes it was the professors. I remember the second time I took it, we had a professor from India, and it wasn't just me, but the whole class couldn't understand what she was saying, and so it was very difficult, to be in the class and,
You're talking about with the accent?
Yeah, the accent, yeah, and I could barely understand.
Oh yeah, that's hard.
But
Was it a struggle for the rest of the class too?
oh yeah, it was. I mean,
Okay.
it wasn't just me. Sometimes when we would go into the classroom early, because usually the professor would show up late, we would say, could you understand her yesterday in this lesson? Could you understand what she was saying here? And I was like, no, I couldn't. And they were like, me neither. I couldn't understand her either.
Yeah, that makes it challenging too. For sure, those.
Barriers.
Yes, the language barriers and the dialectical
Yeah.
variations can be difficult,
Yeah.
especially if your brain is wired in a way that things are coming in and then you're trying to get out what you're processing, and there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
For sure.
But it was during that time, whenever I was at Lone Star, that my parents, they were looking for programs to help me, find a job. And around 2019, in that spring semester, I started going to the University of Houston downtown
Okay.
for this program called the HEART program.
Okay.
Basically, it's basically like a 2-year program that
Mhm.
basically helps students who are on the spectrum, basically learn the basics of job applications, of
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good program. It's vocational in nature.
all the social skills of the program, and it wasn't, and I actually did like it that first year. I mean, even though the classes were pretty basic, I kind of liked how they were actually willing to help the students there, they were planning on giving us summer externships,
Uh-huh.
and then in our second year we would have, worked all around the campus,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is as I was, about finishing my summer externship, the head of the program said that in order for all the students, to get the hours in, they're going to be working every day instead of Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I couldn't do that because I already registered for classes at Lone
Mhm.
Star, so I really couldn't do that, so I had to leave the program, but thankfully as I was, in my third year at Lone Star, that's when my mom heard of another program called the Vast Academy program
Okay.
at HCC,
Mm-hmm.
and I went, and I met the head of the program. I think you know her,
Uh-huh.
Ms. Gurka,
Uh-huh.
a wonderful woman, and then after meeting her and meeting some of the students who were in my class, I just joined the program that first spring year, in January 2020.
COVID.
But this was before. It was
Yeah,
before COVID.
right
right?
before the shutdown. Yep.
Yeah, but then when COVID came, we spent, I think about a whole year doing classes online,
Mm-hmm.
which was, it wasn't that bad, the work I could do, but just it was so frustrating being at home because, at that time,
Yeah.
I had to do all my classes downstairs, and I had dogs, so every single time when someone would come walking by our house, it would be barking,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was just, a struggle,
And in my experience too with the online platform, which I know it has its place in, but for me, my own self, I really struggle without that relationship.
Yeah.
And I struggle with, I know people say, well, you can develop a relationship virtually and this and this and this. I need the in-person, physical part, my own learning style. Yeah, it is very different
Yeah,
online.
And you only see them from here up, and then when you see them in person, it's not oh, you're really 6 feet tall.
Right.
I imagine you'd be 5'2".
Right.
Yeah, but thankfully, like during my last year in that program, like that's when they finally started to open up, the doors, there, and I was able to see all my professors again, see all my classmates,
Mm-hmm.
and so actually once I started my last year there, Mrs. Burke, asked me like what was my plan after, I got my certificate from
Yeah.
academy. And originally my plan was just to apply to like a regular college,
Uh-huh.
but then like she said, well, there are some students from HEC that are going to the to this program at St. Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
and she told me about you and like how me and my mom can like talk with you and sign up, for the program.
Uh-huh.
And well, we called around October, I think, of 2021.
Uh-huh. And we had just launched, yep.
Yeah, and you kind of said, well, he can't register because we already have started,
Mm-hmm.
the fall, but you could put me in for the next year, next fall.
Because we only do fall starts, that's right.
Yeah, and then you also suggested that I keep busy, and that's what I did throughout that whole spring semester. I took an online class, a creative writing class, but I mean it kept me busy.
Mm-hmm.
It helped me and just do something to keep myself occupied, but also like learn still,
Uh-huh.
because that was pretty important. That you said to my mom, it's like he has to do something that keeps
Right.
my mind busy.
Right,
not-
keep that cognitive flex.
yeah, not just doing nothing. And so it was during that time that that's whenever I did the evaluation. That the woman that came in,
Yep.
and then I met you and Professor Caliper,
Uh-huh.
and then I did the day of shadowing with Tommy and Emily, and
Yep. Yeah, here we are.
yeah.
Yeah, and so did you plan to go to college, Colton, or you didn't know, or?
When I first, before I came here, I actually graduated Cypress Woods High School back in 2018, and then I stayed in an extra year for special ed for like jobs from just work at like some places that see like the real world or something like that.
It's so
Yeah.
wild to me, I'll interrupt you here. It's just wild to me that you two spent time in programs that were designed for people that have severe and profound disabilities. And those programs are rich and are very, very vibrant and certainly needed. But from my perspective, and I know G would agree, that was a misplacement for you guys.
Yeah, it
I would
was.
imagine you guys did not fit in.
Yeah, I mean, compared to like me, I felt that I was one of the more higher functioning people because
Mhm.
some of the people in that program, in both the hard and fast, I mean, some of them, struggled a lot,
Right.
like some found the work to be very complicated. Well, for me, I found it very easy. I understood immediately, and
Well, and remember too, there are opportunities and programs that are mostly vocational in nature, sometimes experiential as well, but mostly vocational for people that really have severe and profound disabilities. And academia, in the sense that we mean in terms of college, isn't really a good fit because there's different kinds of needs that are there, right? And so in pragmatic studies, really what we're targeting is people that do life differently, for sure. There's lots of things that are different about the way we see the world, but we don't have those kinds of vocational needs. And whatever we're doing with, however we're processing, is not so severe and so profoundly debilitating that we're limited in academics. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so what we have found, because we have had lots of students that have come over from VAST, from different kinds of life paths and Strive, and we've had a couple that have come over from Aggie Achieve. Lots of students have gone to community college, but it's really a matter of fit.
Yeah.
That I am completely capable, I just do it differently. And I don't have the needs that would warrant me being in a more exclusive setting. And college really is the place for me. I just do it differently. So go ahead. So you did an extra year,
Yeah.
and then did you want to go to college, or did you think it wasn't for you, or it was for you?
So I stayed for like an extra year for like a job kind of class, and after that, I just said like I just want to like go to like the real world and see if any job could like hire me for my interests. And so, but then once COVID hit, there was like not much options, and I had been out of school for the past 2 years, and so but I think it was beginning of 2022, actually me and my mom just woke up like one morning, and then they saw like the news for Torres.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
yes, and
Okay.
then so she was like all over like on the news, and so my mom said about like this program and all this stuff, and then so my mom, she was saying that like let's try this or something like that, and so I think it was like a week or 2 weeks ago later, my mom, she contacted Torres, and then so we just met somewhere around the streets to just walk around the university, and she was like walking with one of her dogs, and like after all that, and then I was like, okay, let's try it. Have been out of school for the past 2 years, and then 3 years later, got accepted, and here I am now.
Yeah, and what's wild, Colton, is that you, like Guillermo and Vic, have been on the dean's list.
Oh yeah.
And so it's wild to me that you were in, that you would have been in a self-contained setting, and done some vocational training, and now here you are at a university.
Yes.
In general education classes, because pragmatic studies is just a major. It's not. There's nothing funny or special about it. And you have been on the dean's list.
Yes.
And I think that's such a testament to a couple of things, right? Certainly a testament to you and your skills, but also almost a slap to the society and the school systems that relegated you to different settings, because apparently you were more capable than you were given credit for.
Oh, yeah.
You've been consistently on the dean's list at a university,
Yes.
in general education classes, with nothing special about them. So yeah, good for you. And Vic, and wait a minute, before you Vic, did you want to go to college, or you just thought, well, let's see what happens?
So I was like, cause years before we went to college, I actually went to Lone Star in Cyprus, and then I usually, since I was like a teeny little bitty kid, like I always go to like their library, and then just like we'll walk around, see what kind of future is, because the back of my mind I was like, I wonder what college is gonna be like, or whatever,
Yeah.
towards like down the road, since I'm getting like older. And then so I always kept like the back of my mind, hopefully I'll get accepted to any college,
Yeah.
whatever college that I get like accepted. So thankfully, years later, my wish just came true. So
Yeah.
surprisingly, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Vic, what about you? Was college in your trajectory?
So I actually came here wanting to do psychology,
Okay.
and I came from a special needs high school, and I wasn't expecting like the amount of reading and the amount of writing, and like I didn't know anyone here, so I had no support team, and there was just a lot of struggles that like I ran into because it was just, and mostly I think it was that I had no support here. I didn't.
Well, yeah, so let's talk about that, because the way you came to pragmatic studies was a little different, right?
Mhm.
Because you started out in a traditional program,
Mhm.
a bachelor's degree,
Mhm.
and then the fall semester started, August, September, whatever, and I think you contacted me like in October or so,
Mhm.
right? And by the time October had come, you had, where were you at? Had you dropped a couple of classes? or
I
what was
dropped a
happening?
class, and like I was trying to like I was focusing all my energy on one class because I was like, I'm not doing good in these two
Mhm.
classes. I'm just going to it was past the drop date, so I basically gave up on those two classes and focused on my psychology class, which I ended up passing, but
Good.
like it was just so much for me.
And so what was it that drew you to pragmatic studies?
Well, I had heard about it because someone else from my high school went into this program,
Uh-huh.
and
Sophia
I was
Velasquez, right?
no,
It was Brandon.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And you had met Eric. You guys were
Yeah, I was
were
friends
school
with
besties.
Eric,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, with how hard college was already, I was like gonna drop out because
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it. It was just a combination of a lot of things. Like
Yeah.
the school wanted me to read. This class wanted me to read 30 pages. This class wanted me to read 40, and I'm sitting here with like really bad dyslexia, and not able to read 20 a day.
Yeah.
All I'm thinking, do these people not know that other classes assign homework too?
Yeah. And so then when we met, you came in my office and we met.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying, I feel like I just need some additional supports. And you asked a couple of questions about how we do things in the pragmatic studies major, and then your question was really, I need some supports.
Yeah.
And the accommodations that I have aren't enough. And so then you jumped ship and came over.
Because my train of thought was, I thought this program, from what I hear, is great. It's, for people who are having the problems I'm having, and if I was going to drop out of college otherwise, so I was
Right.
like, I'm going to try this program before I completely give up.
Yeah, we've had a couple of students that have gone from a traditional track coming into pragmatic studies, and we have had we've had one student who came into pragmatic studies and then felt like he didn't need that level of support, so he transitioned out, and that's worked out great. But we have had a handful of students that have started out in a traditional track and then really felt like they needed the support. Yes.
Micah's also started out.
Micah started out in a traditional track too, and then ended up coming over. So, what kinds of supports do you guys feel like you get in pragmatic studies that you wouldn't get otherwise? Give me some examples.
Well,
Small classes for sure.
Yeah, I
Oh,
would
sure.
say the small classes, I know people, after class I'm able to talk to my classmates and be like, I'm obviously able to ask the professors questions
Right.
a lot and be a lot less scared because, in a big classroom of 82 people, you're here like, well, I don't want to ask that, I'll figure it out later.
Do you feel like you can better connect and relate to other people
Yeah.
in your cohort and other people that are majoring in pragmatic studies? You feel like
Yeah.
you guys kind of understand each other?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because one of the things that we've noticed for sure is like in the cafeteria at lunchtime, it's like pragmatic studies take over in there, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's tons of students in there.
Oh yeah, big huge table and
yes,
people
yes.
just get together. So.
Yeah.
Yes, and students tend to, at least with pragmatic studies majors, they tend to navigate and gravitate toward each other. They're together. You guys are together all the time.
As a professor, I feel like if I'm having a bad day, I just need to walk into the cafeteria.
Yes.
Immediately I'm greeted. I feel like, oh, here they are.
Yes,
Okay, I'm gonna make
right,
it
because
this
these
day.
are our people, right?
Yeah.
And I say all the time, I tell Andres all the time that I tell my own kids all the time that when we're all in the same space together, my day is just so much better because these are our people.
Yeah.
You know, we just understand each other. We can relate to each other. We fit in with each other, and I think we're pretty stinking cool.
I do too. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I would say that a huge piece for me was when I came to this college, I had no friends, I knew no one. I had never been in college before.
Right.
And like my best friend was in college like a year ahead of me, and you know, I'm trying to figure out all this stuff, but I felt like I had no support.
Yeah.
And in the program, I feel comfortable when I'm struggling to go up to my teacher and say that I'm struggling and ask them for help, as opposed to before where I would just cry in my room alone.
Well, yeah, and you guys have really opened up some avenues for yourself. So, for example, I'll just highlight some stuff that I know myself. I know Guillermo, you work on campus.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I work at the Career Service Center front desk for about a year now. Most recently, like during the spring semester, I have just been promoted to now a career counselor.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then Colton, you just went on our graduation celebration trip. Yep, that was a good time.
Yep, full week. Have not been to carnival since 20 years, so
Yeah. We
it
went
was
on a
special.
cruise.
So
Yeah, it was a good time where we just celebrated you guys' graduation.
oh yeah,
But
that was
just
fun.
think, like 5 years ago, for y'all, this was never even like a thought that you could do something like this.
Yes.
And my favorite comment lately is, look at you now. Like,
Yeah, look at it. Look at me now. Look at us now. That's right,
I
right?
tell you, y'all are incredible all the time. Y'all probably get tired of me saying it, but I'm just like today I walked in here and I was like, just way over my head what they're talking
Yes. Well,
about.
that's the same thing with this podcast. When I told G, I said, "Hey, we should do a podcast." She was like, "Okay, what do you know anything about a podcast?" I said, "Of course not." I said, "Do you?" And she said, "No." I said, "Well, let's have the kids do it." And so then I sent out a couple texts asking you guys if you guys are in. You guys were like, "Yeah, I'm down, sure." Colton was like, "Sure, I need some internship stuff." Like that. Sounds good to
Yes,
me.
I need more to leave me hours and pass it.
Yeah, and
You're over your hours.
right, and now here we have this podcast that's real and it's tangible, and that's how everything has gone because you guys are the movers and the shakers. I mean, for you went on a study abroad with us last year to Belize.
Yep.
You are our outstanding graduate this year for your associates. So it's in terms of your college experience, has it been what you expected? Has it been better than you expected? Are there things that you wish would be different?
I think that it's been better.
So far, because I know
Yeah.
you guys are working on your next
I
year.
think it's been better than I expected since I joined the program. And before I joined the program, it was worse than what I expected.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So do you think then that, do you feel like you're part of something? Do you feel like you
Yeah.
fit in?
Yeah. I think that's the biggest difference
Do you
between.
feel just like a super normal person your
Yes.
age going to college?
Yes.
I do, yeah. I mean, more like just a regular person, like in the mornings I have work, I have classes, and then later in the week, I do my laundry, at the dining dorms, just normal basic things like
Oh,
that.
because you and Vic live on campus?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you're commuting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say that the biggest thing is just like having a support team, and that doesn't even mean that you need all these crazy accommodations and all these different learning stuff, but having someone to go to and just say like when I'm struggling,
Yeah, even if you're having a bad day,
Yeah,
have
exactly.
somebody to call.
Exactly. Something like that makes the biggest difference in my success.
For sure.
For sure. And then G, you gave a shout out to your brother Sash.
Yes.
So what kinds of things, because he is almost done with his bachelor's here, and then I think we are looking for graduate school options for him too. And you said that he had dyslexia. And so what do you feel like? Do you feel like he's had similar experiences
For sure.
in college?
I think this has been the best place for them. I think we could not have asked for a better program. But we give you all of our, we could call you the superstar.
No, it's not me. It's you. It's the kids. No.
But without you, this whole program wouldn't have started.
It's
And
the
I love
kids.
being a part of it, and it's just, like I said before, it's special.
Yeah, it's very special. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Yeah, I know sometimes it's hard to talk about our stories. Sometimes it's hard to, acknowledge some things.
I like talking. I mean, it's
Good.
very healthy. I mean, it's healthy in general just to talk about anything. It's not healthy to bottle things up, and keep it inside. It's always important to talk about these things, whether to a friend, a parent, a cousin, aunt, uncle, or just anyone. Even you guys,
Yeah.
your teachers.
Yeah, and I think too, hopefully some of our listeners can identify with your stories. We can certainly continue to be servants of the greater good, and continue to provide opportunities and avenues for people. So hopefully your stories can resonate with some people. And I think too, there is kind of a reluctance sometimes to say, this is me, and you don't get to judge me, and there's nothing wrong with me. I am who I am, and I will be where I'm at. And I don't have to apologize for the space I take up. So hopefully some of our listeners can identify with some of that. Yeah, so we'll did you guys have anything else? Yeah, all right, well, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining. Again, I'm Dr. Suarez. Go ahead, you want to sign yourself
Victoria
out?
Hoffman.
I'm Miss Geringer.
I'm Cole Porce.
I'm Guillermo Toronto.
And we are part of Bragging and Bragging, our newly formed podcast, filming here at the Black Lab out of Houston, Texas.
Yes.
See you later.
Have a great day.
Bye.